so many of us think about what it would be like to make the Bassmaster Elite Series Bass Pro Tournament, fish at the highest level in the sport, and how great it would be. But I don't think any of us really understand the sacrifices and the financial challenges and what really comes with trying to fish for a living. And so, no better than somebody that's lived it and done it and has finally made the Elite Series. We're going to bring on a special guest tonight. Got Kyle Patrick, our 2024 Bassmaster Elite qualifier and 2024 Bassmaster Classic qualifier.
Yeah,
Does that sunk in? Does that sound good? Or
yeah, it's funny. It didn't sink in after the tournament really because of how much work we still had to do at the Harris chain, and then after the Harris chain, it sunk in for like a day. But it's been such a busy time for me, and I'll get into sort of why. Obviously the basics with the sponsorship stuff, but it's been such a busy time. I really haven't been able to sit back and really think about, frankly, it's a big accomplishment. And I'd love to sit back and think about it, but it's always in order to be competitive in the industry and in order to, sort of make your mark in the industry. I don't think you really can think about it that much, because if you get too, caught up in oh, I'm just so pumped and I feel like you'll get behind. Obviously it's good to do it a little bit, and I probably should do it more, but I'm so focused on the next goal, whether that be building my brand, rookie of the year, winning an Elite Series event, that I sometimes find myself not able to think about it as much as I'd like to.
Sure. I mean, you'll have plenty of time to think about when you're driving to, was it Toledo Bend or Texas or the first event, right? That'll be a nice little drive. You got all time to think. Once the season starts, you got all that driving, you can start thinking about whatever you want.
Exactly.
So tonight, as always, presented by Arsenal Fishing and boosted by Powerhouse Lithium, HellaBass Live. A couple of things. So we're definitely going to cover Kyle's journey through tournament fishing, a couple of seasons in the Opens, EQs, how to get to the Elite Series. Obviously get some of his perspective on the upcoming Elite Series and the Classic, but also where we really want to end up in the end here is talking about Kyle has some unique perspectives about tournament fishing, promotion, sponsorship, marketing, and just how to navigate and probably share some of his experiences, maybe where things didn't go right and things went well from a financial, through this journey. So we're just going to have a conversation and answer some questions, and that's where the topic of the show is going to go tonight.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, I think everyone takes a different approach to it. I think that I've been able to figure out a way to, sustain somewhat of sustain more longevity in that's funny, Caroline. My girlfriend's chirping me. To have more longevity in the industry, right? Not feel like that it's just a 1-year contract. What am I going to do next year? Or really build a relationship that feels more stable than just a contract type deal.
Right. Yeah. So Kyle was number 10, right? So you were the 10 in EQs.
I'll take
thanks
it.
to Kenta, last guy in.
I gave him a big hug.
That's nice. Maybe when you get your first check, you can buy him some sushi or something like that at one of the events or something like that. So everybody else, everybody's talking to, I guess everybody's talking to Ben and Garrett and JT, all the guys. I was like, I'm just going to start at the bottom. We'll just work our way up.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, those guys had it easy. They barely. I mean, some of those guys didn't have to sweat the last event. I mean,
I talked to JT. I'm like, dude, you are just. And of course, he's more stressed than I am. He's like, I gotta win. I gotta win AOI. I gotta win AOI. I gotta win AOI. And I'm like, dude, I would literally pay so much money to be in your position right now, because the Harris chain is not an easy place to feel the pressure. That lake is, it's a very
all those the travel time and the tiny canals and tiny locks. It's easy to slip up. It's easy to throw up 100th or 150th because so much of it, I don't know. You say I go right or left, or what lake I picked to like start my tournament can either like make it or basically put you behind the 8 ball big time.
Yeah, and what's wild about the Harris chain is, you know, if of course if you're not, you know, getting a whole bunch of local info, is you kind of have to do the research, and then your decision making starting day one of practice is almost deciding the event for you. Like,
Sure.
there's so much water and there's so much vast like canals and creeks and idle time that, you know, in practice you have to be pretty confident in your decision to say, okay, I'm going to break down Griffin, and if it doesn't work, I'm going to break down another section and try to break down a little bit between the two or on the run to them, so I have something to fish. But it's impossible to fish, to really break down more than 2 lakes, depending on the lakes you go to. Like Griffin, you could spend all 5 days, and then, you know, the wind blows the wrong direction, or that lake just isn't firing at that time, and you're in trouble.
Or 150 of the 225 guys have the same idea.
Yep.
And all of a sudden it's like you show up and it's just like literally like, oh man, there's not a
Yeah, I mean, and you saw Milliken in the locks. I mean, he almost blew that last day because the locks to get into a Popco were like jammed. So like all those factors make that place, frankly, kind of a nightmare.
Yeah.
So
I don't know how long I mean, you're a pretty young guy, right? I mean, I would assume mid-20s or something. 26. You started, this is your 3rd year fishing the Opens?
So this is my 2nd year fishing all 9. My 3rd year, if you count like my Elite Series marshalling, and you know, my co-angler stuff, and then I fished 1 division in the Centrals as a boater.
So 2021 was a combination of you did a single division plus some co-anglers in 21?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And then I marshaled some Elite Series events.
You also finished 10th in the points in 2022, right?
I know. And Kenta finished 5th. It was like identical in the standings. Kenta 5th, me 10th, and then I finished 10th. He finished 5th again.
Yeah. A little bit different system, points rolled out, worked in your, you know, instead of being the 2nd or 3rd guy out, you're the last guy in this year.
Yeah. And frankly, I mean, look at the point differential, like between my 10th last year and my 10th this year. And that speaks volumes about how hard it was to make it. Like, I think I might have had like more than, I don't know the number, but I had a lot more points this year than I did last year. Like, it was substantial.
Yeah. Talk about, so you took a unique route, because I think I forgot about this, but I've heard this before, that you did some toes in the Opens, but you also did a fair amount of marshalling. Is that right?
Yeah. So
talk about that and why, and why and how you.
Totally. Like, I think it's an important factor. Luckily I had a mentor of mine, help me pay for it, because frankly, I think you can accomplish what you need to become a better fisherman, fishing the Bassmaster Opens as a co-angler, or any division, or any like co-angler events. Like, you know, there's a lot to learn from all fishermen. It doesn't matter if you're with KVD or if you're with the local guy on a lake. Like, there's a lot to be learned sitting in the back of someone's boat, right? But no, I had the opportunity to do that, and being in the boat with Stetson Blaylock, Gerald Swindle, who else was I with? I can't even remember. Cruz, all these guys. Like, I was able to take away pieces of information that changed the way I fished, not only in New York at the time, but the coming years in the Opens, whether that be the live scope situation, or what on the water tournament decisions that high level guys were making, was crucial for my learning, because I didn't really ever have to I never really fished these lakes out here. Like, I'm from New York, right? Like, there's a lot of diversity there: Cayuga, St. Lawrence, Oneida, Champlain. Like, there's a lot you can fish: grass, rock, deep, shallow, but nothing sets up like some of the lakes down south for us. Like, not even close.
Right. Yeah.
So getting out there
not,
and
not
just
much
seeing
for shad. Yeah, you don't. The season's weird. You don't get to do a lot of pre-spawn. Same kind of stuff we have up here.
Right. Yep. Exactly. But no, it's crucial, and I recommend it to anyone. I think Bassmaster does a phenomenal job with their, and they're continuing to like expand sort of that tier system where you start here and you can work your way up, whether it be high school, college, opens. I didn't fish in college, but I followed along and like did the co-angler Marshall opens. There's a lot of ways to make it, and I just posted recently, like, I think people don't realize the dream is attainable. Like, did I think I could compete in the opens? Yeah. But did I ever think this would happen? Like make the classic and the elites in 1 year? No. And I think that, Bass truly makes it attainable. And guys will say that, they're making it so much more expensive and the boat prices are going up and all this. And yeah, that's true. Like it is. Like there's no doubt buying a $100,000 boat is not something that everyone can afford.
A slight barrier to entry.
There is a slight barrier. Yes, there's a slight barrier to entry for sure. There's no doubt about it. However, you can still compete. Like I think guys fall into the trap of being like, I need a 921 Elite to Phoenix. I need 4 live scopes. I need 5 graphs. Like that's not true. Like, do I think you need live scope to be competitive with certain schedules? Absolutely. But you can put that on an older boat. Like it's not like, I understand that you want to look fancy in a nice boat to start off, but like you don't have to do that. I know that's the norm. Like you see guys out there with that stuff, but like you don't have to do that. You can outrig a boat and it can be equipped like electronically wise, like 1 graph, maybe 2 up front or even 1 up front, and you can get it done. Like did my setup this year, my Phoenix, my Hummingbirds, did they help me? Yes. But I don't think that it's impossible to do on a smaller budget, right? Yeah. Is it harder? Maybe, but I don't think it's impossible. And I think that it is still attainable. And especially if you go at the sponsorship game in the correct way and build some momentum in the industry, providing like true value to the companies that you work with. And that's one route that I took. And that's the reason I can do this. Like you hear it all the time. Yeah. People say, oh, I couldn't do it without my sponsors. Like that's sort of a cliche phrase in the industry. Like really, like, you couldn't fish your like local weekend tournament without your sponsor. But when I say that, I mean it. Like that is a crucial aspect of how I was able to fish freely and spend the money, the time away from home, time away from my job to do it.
Yeah. So you talk about creating value, and obviously 2023 season, your partnerships were a big deal. How long ago did you start building those relationships to get ready for your 2022, 2023 campaigns? Like, what did that look like? I assume it wasn't like, oh yeah, I just, created these out of thin air. And
yeah. No. So one of the companies that I think has been with me the longest, the 2 companies are K&K Customs and Douglas Rods, both in New York. Obviously that's a factor that helps, right? Like locally, do some tournaments, sort of get a local reputation locally. But really it started out with two phone calls. Like, I called up because I started a tournament trail. Let's start it at that. So this is where it all started. In New York, I felt like the tournament scene wasn't up to par compared to down south, and it still isn't, right? Like you can't beat like the Alabama Bass Trail. Like you can't compete. We still have not been able to compete with the numbers that like places like Alabama, Florida, Tennessee, like what they get on a local and regional level. We don't compete, right? But I had a vision and I was like, I want to try. So I did 100% payback. I was out on the water. in my boat, not competing, taking pictures of the guys, posting them up, you know, sending them, trying to make it feel like more of a tournament, like modeling it off of Bassmaster, like taking pictures of them on the water, made them feel cool, you know. And it was, you know, I was adding value to them, right? So, and it was 100% payback, so I didn't take a dime. So I ran that for 2 years, and I called Kevin at K&K Customs, he's the owner, and I was like, you know, can we work out a sponsorship for the trail? Not for me, for the trail. So I was like, I want to put your name up there. These guys have boats. They may not have all the electronics or the trolling motors or, you know, power poles at that time that they need. So I feel like, you know, it might be a good value add for you to, you know, wasn't anything crazy. Put up your poster, you know, give away, I think it was 4, it was power pole gift cards. So he worked with them to get me that deal to basically boost my you know,
Right.
the entries. And then eventually my goal was, okay, we'll pay out 90% because I can't keep doing this for free, right? And then eventually I called, or you know, it was Mike Pikolinski. He was working for Douglas at the time, and him and Jesse Clayton in New York, they came to one of my events and were just like, dude, this is awesome. Like, do you, and they were both working for Douglas at this time. They were like, you know, can we talk about doing like some sort of sponsorship? I think it would be good visibility. I was like, man, that'd be awesome. So that's sort of how those two started. And I grew my relationship with Douglas. They bought the tournament trail. Now it's Douglas Rod's Big Money Opens. They are affiliated with the Bassmaster Team Championship now. You know, Kevin was involved and still is in some capacity. Like there's and so that's how it kind of started, right? Like those two companies was sort of my initial dealing with the bass fishing industry. And that grew, right? So after college, because this was all during college, this tournament, right? So after college, I worked for Douglas. So I was a sales guy because I was like, you know what? It's a great company. They make a great product. I can get behind representing this product. Great people. So, you know, I want to go around the country. I said, I'll take a van. I'll go around the country. I'll visit shops. I'll, you know, add dealers. I'll, you know, basically do what a salesman would do for a fishing company. And, you know, that sort of turned into me having a little more leverage, right? To say, hey, like, I'm going to go fish some co-angler events. So I'm going to still visit shops. I'm going to still do all that. Can I have X amount of, you know, financial support to do this? And they were like, absolutely, right? Because I've built that relationship. I've proven I can add value. I've made connections for them. They've helped me out a lot. It's a symbiotic. Like we're working together here, right? I'm not saying to them out of the blue, here's my pitch deck, here's my resume, I want $10,000. I'm fishing the Bassmaster Opens, or, you know, basically asking. I feel like there's a lot of asking in the industry right off the bat. Like if it's like if you were a store owner and I walked into your store and I was like, hey, can I have that? I'll do this for you. They're going to be like, no, who are you? You know what I mean? And it's the same deal. I get we're all in the industry, but you gotta add value first. Like, even if it takes some time, it's more important to build a relationship than to, you know, get your pockets lined like right off the bat. And frankly, majority of the time, you're never going to get your pockets lined right off the bat. But even if you do, it doesn't, unless you really, really, you know, impress them with something down the line. Like, it doesn't feel good, for me at least, to feel like I'm taking something and not knowing 100% that I can provide value or will provide value to them, tangible value, where they can say, okay, he did, you know, he provided sales, or he provided connections, or he provided, you know, X, Y, or Z.
Yeah, cool. Michael wants to know where in New York. Where's the hometown?
Cooperstown, Baseball Hall of Fame. It's a beautiful place if you guys ever want to go there. I mean, I would recommend going in the summer because 5 inches of ice and snow isn't always, I mean, it's beautiful there, but the summer, the Otsego Lake, that's where I grew up fishing. My first club I joined there, Susquehanna Bass, but lake's beautiful. They've got, a golf course on the lake. It's like small town, vibes with a lake right next to it. It's a super cool place.
Yeah, cool. Very cool. So, maybe let's just back up a little bit here. And let's say you kind of, how many Marshall events did you end up doing?
I think I marshaled 6 or 7. So like
1 year or over 2 years?
1 year.
Okay.
1 year. And this was when I was working for Douglas, and I also had the financial support of one of my mentors who was involved with the fishing industry a little bit. He was well off. So like I had kind of a dual income to where, and I didn't have many expenses. I mean, I was fresh out of college, like didn't really know what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to work in the fishing industry at the very least. Like if I wasn't going to make it, I wanted to work in the fishing industry. But like I said, to me, it's one and the same. Like I truly look at a sponsorship as a job, like, because it is. But I was either going to work at a company in the fishing industry or try to make it, to the top of the sport.
Very cool. So then you fished a couple co-angler Bassmaster Opens at the same time.
Yep.
So then 22 is your first full season. Pretty successful, 10th in the points. Although there was only 70 guys maybe that year that did all of them, something like that, or signed up at the beginning.
Yeah.
I did look it up. 1292 was your 10th place points in 2022. 1426 was 10th in 2023. So that's a 134 point jump, which is like 10.5% increase year over year. In points.
Yeah. And that's what it took to make a top 10. Like, just a quick side note, like, gosh, man, is it going to get harder? I don't know. I don't know how it could. Like, I had 2 slip ups this year. You could say 3, but a 110 or something at the St. Lawrence, and then like an 87 in Alabama, the first tournament. Other than that, I mean, I didn't slip up that much, and I still came in 10th. Like they caught them. They caught them this year.
Absolutely. I mean, you pretty much, right? So you had you checked in.
Was it 6?
Yeah, 6.
6?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 6 of 9 you had checks. You had a win, a couple top 20s, three other top, basically 3 others in the top 22. So your home state one was your biggest. And there was a lot of people that
I don't know.
There was a lot of people that Waddington was their worst tournament.
Oh my gosh. That tournament, that was a flip flopper. Like if you looked at the points prior to Waddington and then after, it was like so much went on in that tournament that I never had thought would actually happen. Like you looked at some of the names that didn't do well, and I was like, wow, that's actually shocking.
Yeah, it was interesting. Yeah, that's a good question. Is is it going to be? Was this the hardest year in the Opens? Is it going to get? Yeah, I mean,
I don't see how it could. I don't see how it could.
This could have been the hardest year, but I don't think it's going to get considerably easier anytime soon. You know what I mean? Like, I think we're talking about
it leveled
differences.
Out. Yeah, I think it leveled out with the new structure, with the new payouts, with the AOI that's coming up, with some BPT carnage happening here. Like, I think if someone said to me right now, what do I need next year to make the elites? I'm not going to guarantee, but I would say a 40th average would be close to a guarantee. I had a 42.
It was 42 point something this year. Right?
Yeah. So it could be 44. It could be 40, but in that
right around there, like they're going to pay down to 45. I would say your target. I mean, you should be shooting to end up with a 40, like averaging a check by the end of the year.
Dude, you got to check. You got to check out. Your average at the end of the year has to be checks fluidly, or else, unless it's an off year, for some strange reason, but I don't see how. I mean, look at the bottom. Look at the guys that missed it: Bobby Lane, Kyle Austin, Brett Cannon. I'm missing Sam George. I mean, if you know any more off the top of your head, keep going. But like, it was a lot of hammers. Like guys that, to be honest with you, I could look them in the eyes and say, you like, I mean, they're just as good as I am, if not better.
You might be a better fisher than me, but maybe I outworked you this year, right? Or I out, right?
Like, whatever it is, dude, it comes down to like Kyle Austin lost a 5-pounder on the last day that would have put him in the elites. And I caught a 14 ouncer on the last day, in the last 20 minutes, he lost a 5-pounder. I lost a 14 ouncer I caught a 14 ouncer to fill out my limit with 20 minutes left. And that made me like, that's what it comes down to. It's things that it doesn't differentiate a fisherman by any means. It's just, I don't know. All year that's the case.
I think the overall, like, we started this year with 174, 75, whatever it was, EQ people signed up for all 9.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to start with that many this year. I think it'll be between. I don't think it's going to drop way out, but I think there's quite a few guys that this was like their one shot, right? That they took their swing, right? Like financially, they only had one opportunity and they took their swing. I don't know how many that is. I don't know if that's 10 guys or 50 guys, right? But there's a certain amount that are going to like, okay, that was a little. I bit off a little more than I thought. That's not. Hey, I've never traveled for 9 tournaments. I really didn't enjoy that. Like, right. Like there's, but I think we'll see a slight decline in numbers. I don't think it's like going to drop to like 80. But I think we're going to be, 125 to 150, maybe something like that, I guess.
Yeah.
But I think we're not going to have as many people that just kind of like on a whim thought, I can do this. And now it's going to be like the people that are doing it. We're going to get like some BPT guys. We're going to get some invitational
so you're
guys.
Saying the competition throughout will be stouter.
I think so. On average, it's not going to get any easier. Even though there won't be 175, it'll be 125, 150. But those that will have a little bit more chops, I think.
I can see that being the case.
I mean, I still think it's going to be like, yeah. And then that's right. You got these, Easton Fothergill and
Tucker Smith will be there.
Tucker Smith, those kinds of, and then other guys that are right there that we don't even know their names yet that we will.
Well, that's the thing, man. So I go back and forth. I argue about this with my buddy all the time. I'm like, would it shock me if there was 200? Yeah, but if I had to bet my life that it wouldn't happen, I wouldn't do it. Like I could see there potentially being over 175 again, plus that sign up.
I'm hoping not, because I want to fish the Division 3. So I don't.
Yeah, Division 3. That's right up your alley. Holy smokes! I signed up for Division 1. Like we talked about.
The opens were so easy and so profitable. Kyle had to sign up for a division next year.
No, actually, you know what it is? It's more so I can gain experience look at Division 1. You tell me that the elites are not going to one of those lakes next year. Okeechobee, Santee Cooper, Hartwell. I mean, that's like a picturesque Bassmaster schedule, whether it's elites, opens next year, whatever it is.
That's a good question. Nick, channel member says, you cashed in 2/3. That means you must have made money, right?
Nick, I'll tell you this. If I didn't win one of those, so Nick, pretend I finished second.
Or third.
No, second, even second. If I finished second in at Ozarks, I would have been down 7,000.
52, 56.
Right?
You had about 60 grand in winnings this year.
So, but then you take a second place, that's $20,000 probably around there. So subtract 43 from
25. It would bring you down to 35.
Oh yeah, so I'd be down 10 grand.
Right.
If I didn't win. And that's the reality of the game, right? Like I'm not like throwing shade at the payouts or anything, but the reality is, and that goes back to what I'm saying, with the companies that I work with, for example, Powerhouse, like like I work for Powerhouse. I'm not sponsored by Powerhouse. They will be on the side of the boat my boat next year, big, because I believe in the company and I work for them. And I think I have added value and I will continue to add value. And without them, I probably wouldn't have been able to do this year. And that's what's so important about the value add that you're providing, right? Because in the opens, you cannot walk into the opens and say,
He's like, he already knew the answer, but he wanted to hear it from you.
Oh, I didn't know. I was genuinely explaining it as if you didn't know. Yeah, like
no, that's good.
Yeah.
I think more people need to hear that. That's kind of the core of what we're talking about tonight.
Yeah, like, and to be honest, I think it's kind of it's a blessing in disguise, and the reason is because unless you're independently wealthy, you have to know that the opens is your training grounds and they make it your training. You can't just go into it and say, oh, I'm going to top 10 all 9. Because first of all, that'd be absurd and probably wouldn't happen. And second of all, you still wouldn't make money. So you have to figure out this sponsorship game in your way. Exactly. Tyler, that's a perfect point. Like, you need to know, everyone needs to know that the opens, you cannot walk into it thinking you're going to make money, and you need to provide value to your sponsors so that they'll help you along the way, or else it's impossible. It really is. It's so impossible. Or you save up a huge chunk of change, but that's a bigger risk than doing it even with the sponsors. Like you're relying on what? I would say truthfully, you need, with this year's entry fees, I think you need 50. I would say you need to have saved $55,000 to go into the opens, and forget your boat truck payment, mortgage, rent, whatever it may be. You need 55 grand of cash.
And so when you say 55, I mean, so you're figuring you were 45, 50 in this year at least?
Yeah. I'm just figuring in an extra 5 or 10.
What kind of lifestyle was Kyle Patrick living on the road? Like, was it like camping, renting house with 19 people and 7 co-anglers? Like, what was your strategy to like?
So I bought a cap on my truck. I had a bed in the back, and I slept next to a bunch of Powerhouse lithium batteries. Don't know how.
Just a topper, not a camper.
Correct. And I'll explain how it transpired. Yep. So I met one of my buddies. His name's Brian. He fished all 9 opens. Super good dude. He basically said, look, I want to travel with someone. I said, dude, all I can afford is $200 a tournament in lodging. So I'm going to stay at campgrounds, man. I'm sorry. He was like, no, man, like, I'll help you out. And I'm grateful for that, because without that, it's not like I had budgeted $200 per event. And he was like, just pay me $200. We'll get cheap Airbnbs, whether that be bunk beds or whatever it is. And I'll cover the difference. Right. So that was incredibly helpful and nice to, have someone that, was able to do that. But frankly, I would have stayed at campgrounds. And, when I do make long drives, I still keep the bed in the back, because, there'll be nights where I don't have something. So I'll sleep in the back. I've got like screens that slide open. But yeah, I mean, that's doing it cheap. Like $200 in lodging isn't a lot of money. Like if you think you're going to get an Airbnb,
I mean, that's slim for campgrounds, to be honest, the way that
it is.
Get electric, like,
yeah, a lot of the ones down south, like you can find KOAs that you can get away with. Because remember, the practice,
some places are like $34 $40 a night for a power electric sometimes.
Right.
So you got to shop around sometimes to get
yes.
Yes.
Yep. 100%. And like people don't realize, like, this is not easy, dude. And like all the while I'm managing, dealers with Powerhouse. I'm doing pro staff stuff for Douglas and Powerhouse, and for K&K Customs. I'm getting calls from guys.
What does RJ even do?
RJ's the brains of the organization, dude.
RJ's just like the eye candy when it comes down to it. Right?
Yeah,
Just
RJ's he's the brains. He's the brains. No, he's very good. RJ's excellent. Good dude too. We talk all the time. We work together very closely. He's a super good dude. And he was the one that believed in me, because I called Powerhouse up. It's a great story. I was in my garage, very bothered because I had a season coming up that I knew was important. I was in the middle of the season, actually. It was the summer, and I had some issues with a prior company, and I called up RJ and I said, RJ, my name is Kyle Patrick. I want to chat with you about lithium batteries. And he was like, yeah. He's like, shoot. And
yeah,
I was
bud,
like,
what's going on?
yeah, well, yeah, bud, shit, talk to me. And I was like, look, I want to provide value to the company. Will you just give me a chance? And we set it up to where I got 90 days. I got batteries. He sent me batteries. He got me hooked up, and he gave me he basically said you got to get after it. Right. And I was like, I'm going to get after it. And right when I got off the phone, I did the legwork, called a bunch of dealers, got some pretty quality sales numbers, if I just may say so myself. And I was like, after 67 or 40 or 50 days, I was like, can I, be more involved? Right. Like, I want to, look what I did. Like, I want to be more involved and try to keep growing this company with you guys the best I can. And, it started off with some small tasks here and there. And, now I still just help with as much as I can and manage pro staff and try to get as many dealers as I can, use connections, and that was just off a phone call. But the difference was, for anyone that's listening, the difference was I didn't call them and say, hey, look at my resume, look at my whatever. I'm looking for free batteries, or I'm looking for X amount of dollars. Because the minute you bring money into it, that's coming out of a company's pocket or a person's pocket, it's kind of an instant turn off, because
at least you're gonna have your guard up, right?
You're gonna have your guard up. Like, whoa, what do you want? You know what I mean? And I think that saying, hey, can I get some dealers for you? Is that something you guys are interested in? Are you looking to add dealers here or there, or what do you need?
Straight up. What are your goals? Nothing. What are your needs?
Yep.
Where do you want to be? How can I help you get there?
Yeah. And yes, did I ask for a chance at free batteries? Yeah, of course, because I needed them. I couldn't run it. But I said, look, I'll pay for them if I don't meet what I've said. Put me on terms, right? And I think that just is how I've done a lot of my sponsorships. It's sort of been either a natural progression, with Douglas, with the tournament trail, and I ran their tournament trail and I worked for them, whether it's K&K Customs, helping him with pro staff. And I had a friendship with him and through the tournament trail prior, it's all been either a natural progression or a value add first. Right. And, that's why it's kind of funny. Now that this all happened, I'll get emails or calls, and I'm just kind of overwhelmed, and I don't know how to go about when someone's like, hey, we'll give you this and this, or they say, what do you want? And I'm just on the phone and I'm like, I'm
usually asking what you want. I don't
know. Yes.
Right.
And no, and I'm being serious. And this is, and I'm not going to get into it, but this has burned me because I tend to, and this is not good. And a couple of my buddies who have made it have said, man, you aren't valuing yourself enough in some situations, right? Because I'll say a number because I don't want to tell a company to pay me something and not know for 100% a fact that I can then 2x their investment. You know what I mean? So I'm getting these calls and it's okay, you got to give me time. You can't call me or email me and expect me to have like bang, 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 at least me, because I've never gone about sponsorships that way in my whole career, ever. I've never been someone to just ask for something. So that's been a challenge for me, honestly. Being in the position I am. I mean, I say that like, oh, poor Kyle, like, but I'm being serious. Like it is hard to go from, providing value first and then knowing, okay, these are my numbers or this is what I've done, versus now it's like it's flip-flopped.
Yeah. Now that you've achieved the goal, you have a platform, right? So yeah, it's cool. Let's see if we can a couple of questions here. Well, just a comment here. Army Outdoors member for 17 months. Let's head to Mojave. Gonna go check out Maddie Wong and Chris Zaldane at the U.S. West Bass Championship. That should be cool.
Heck yeah.
And enjoy the trip. Say hi to Maddie for us.
Yeah, for sure. I actually owe Maddie a call tomorrow. I feel I was so slammed today. I didn't call him.
Don't worry about Marty. He'll be fine. Let's see here. I'm guessing Kevin.
Yeah, that's the owner of K&K Customs.
There you go.
No, Kevin, what's up, dude?
Brody says he was at the Ozarks when you won.
Awesome. Heck yeah. Did you say what up? You should have come over. I was pretty preoccupied. My head was all over the place, but no, that's cool. Here. It's really cool, man. To just, I'm just grateful for everything that's happened. It's nuts.
Yeah, that's the good way to look at it, Jim.
Hey, money should be a bonus. Yeah, I mean, yes, Jim, you're right. But at the same time, when you're in the EQ level of things, it's very hard to. I was fortunate enough to do it this year, but it's very, very challenging for someone to have all their entry fees, travel, lodging, everything covered. So yes, it's a bonus, but at the same time, I think at certain times, like my first year, I did have to say, okay, Kyle, I'm assuming you're going to cut 3 checks just to give yourself an extra 6,000-7,000. Like I think you can do that. So I kind of factored that into my budget, and that was a little bit of a risk, but you have to factor that in a little bit. But you are right. Like if done perfectly in a perfect world, that is correct.
But also at that level, it's hard for anyone to provide enough value just based on logos on boats and jerseys to justify companies to give you that much money. Right.
Yeah.
So unless you are doing things extra, seminars, you have a social platform, you're creating content, you're making you're opening accounts, like you're doing, if you can't do other things besides just catch them and drive your fancy rig down the road, right?
Yeah.
It's hard for many people to justify that unless they're just
totally
good friends and they got a business and they just want to help you out, right? Like, so for a lot of guys, it's a double-edged sword to say that, you shouldn't be, fronting your own money, but at the same time, if you're not doing a bunch of other things like you are, and some people are to justify that, it's hard for companies to justify that backing.
Oh yeah, it's next to impossible. I mean, and look, I am on the opposite end of the spectrum for multiple different companies. I see the way people go about it, and you'd be shocked. Yeah, you'd be shocked. People really think that they deserve X, Y, or Z because they're fishing the opens. But I will say, now the opens, for everyone that hasn't sort of dived into the situation for next year, Bassmaster has stepped their game up pretty tremendous, in a pretty big way. They're live streamed on Fox, FS1, all 9. They stepped their game up.
Is it Fox on all 9, or is it just live coverage at all 9?
That's a good question.
I don't think they're on Fox all 9, but I do think they are covering each event live.
Okay.
I think some of them are still on. I don't think it's 9 on Fox, but I could be wrong. I think it might just be still might be 3 on Fox, but they are going to have their traditional Bassmaster
Yeah.
Live, which is still
Yeah.
a big deal. Like that's still
Right.
important.
It's still value added because there's a lot of
And that
people
is
that
still a big
tune in.
commitment from Bass because that is not cheap.
No, it's not at all. I'm looking
Now
at it
I haven't seen the
now.
specifics whether it's is it all 3 days or just
No,
I don't know.
it's not
So
going to
like
be all 3 days.
yeah,
It says,
just the championship Saturdays or whatever.
yeah. I don't see it here. I don't want to waste too much time looking, but
Yeah, but anyways, but still,
yeah,
they're making a bunch of moves in the right direction. They are putting some AOI payouts on top of what they're already doing. Entry fees are going up. All that money is going on top. They're not taking any a cut of that. It appears that they're not, of that
right.
extra $200 for pros and $75 for co's. None of that is going into Bassmaster. That's all going to the payout. So at least now,
And
if
the
you finish
AOI.
40th, you're doubling your entry fee, which at least you're breaking even when you get a check versus losing money, hopefully.
Right. I mean, you're still going to be losing money based on travel and stuff, but
Depends.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's just the name of the game.
If I get a $4,000 check at Leech Lake that's 3 hours from my house and I'm staying at my buddy's house, I'll
your money. Oh, your money, dude. No, and I think it's cool with the AOY thing because like if you win Angler of the Year, that is true, by the way, whoever just said that. If you win AOY, that's $45,000. That's your elite entry fee. So that's big.
Yeah. And even like 10th place now, I think they get $10,000 or something, or $5,000 or something. So I mean, like that.
Yeah,
an extra
I think
bonus,
it's like 4K, 3,500 or 4K. But I mean, still, that's extra money in your pocket. That's. I mean, it's a good effort to make it a legitimate like trail, and I think. Don't quote me, but I think that's where it's going. Like I think pretty soon you'll see in the next 2 or 3 years some changes. I don't know, but that's where my.
I've heard that the new bids going out are going to shorten the practices, which for a lot is actually good, right? Because that's going to if they're going to give you 5 days of practice, you feel like you almost have to be there for 4 or 5 days. Whereas if they cut it to 3 days, then you can get by for $100
more manageable
lodging instead of $200.
Yeah, it's a lot more manageable. That's the thing. Like, yeah, I mean, and I always said,
hopefully the investment in live brings more money in. Maybe they can sell that advertisement. So yeah.
Yeah, and I always said
is this a key to is not wearing shoes? Like, does that help you feel the fish through the boat in the water to catch fish? Like, is there a secret there? Or?
No, it actually just makes me so much more nimble on the boat. Like I can move around. Like I'm a wiry dude. Everyone says it, which I am. I'm high energy. And I think what it does is I just feel more grounded to the boat. And I feel like I can maneuver around a lot more easily. Like if you're wearing a shoe, it's funny we're talking about this. If you're wearing a shoe, that's an extra this much space that you're taking up on the front deck when you're just standing there, as opposed to like that much. Because it's, you're adding an 1.5 inches or 2 inches to the size of your. I feel more clunky when I'm in shoes, and I hate it. Like I want to be like nimble, able to move around the boat, make a cast, step between my rods, and you know what I mean. It's also
just so that when you're stepping on your guides, it, and then you don't break them.
Right. It's actually burned me. I got a hook in me at Ozarks, believe it or not, like right in the bottom of my foot. It hurts a lot. Yeah.
I'm kind of on board with that. I definitely don't like if I'm fun fishing, I'll wear flip flops and stuff sometimes. But if I'm tournament fishing, I do not like sandals, flip flops. I feel like that is a tripping hazard. I feel like I'm not I mean, sneakers are okay, but they're not the most comfortable for me. What I do is I got these barefoot running shoes.
Vibrams?
The Vivo barefoot.
Is it like where you're like
they're not the toe ones. No.
Oh, okay.
They're like a really light rubber. I don't have them here. You can go watch one of my videos sometimes. You can see them, but they're super light. They don't weigh anything. They're like this thin. Like basically they're like a little plastic rubber shell around my foot. So that I don't burn my feet on buckles and metal,
Yeah.
And then they're thick enough, they're not likely to take a hook. So that's my solution to that. Although Kevin, thanks for the super chat, much appreciated. Although Are you concerned in sight fishing events you're giving up height that you could use for seeing fish?
Do they have a rule on that?
Could you wear platform shoes?
Could I wear platform? Could I? That's actually an interesting thought.
Maybe that's a partnership you haven't considered. Are there any sight fishing events? Maybe you could have like a one event deal.
There a sight fishing event? That's a good question. See, I've been so busy. Like I've planned out my schedule, and it's more travel than it was last year. Kevin.
Yeah. Somebody said Tyler Williams doesn't even own shoes based on last year. So
yeah, no, he doesn't. He doesn't own shoes either. And he almost fell in the water at Harris Chain. So with shoes on, I think he was in for sure. So that saved him. Do we have any sight fishing events on the elites?
I think the Fork's going to be like Texas is going to be on the too early. I think that's going to be mostly pre-spawn, right? I think.
I forget when the date is.
I feel like they're doing a good job to avoid the spawn this year. Just thinking out loud, but
yeah, I all I know is I got a whole lot of driving to do because I need to stay super competitive this year. And people make fun of like spending, like I used to go to events back before there was off limits like 7 days in advance, and just because I need to learn, like I need to catch up. Like I constantly feel behind, and I think that's why I work so hard to try to have gotten to where I'm at, where I can go full time now, right? And fish and work in the fishing industry and be immersed in it, because I felt like I had a job. It was a great job. A friend of mine was the owner. He's amazing. He basically helped me get to where I am right now. His name's Billy Gilbert. He's from New York. It was great to have that job, but I wasn't putting as much time on the water as these guys were. So I'm excited, but it's also going to be a ton of work this year doing 12 events, and, having to pre-practice all of them. I'm not going to pre-practice the open stuff, but I have to pre-practice a lot of the Elite Series events because never been to Fork, never been to, God, why am I blanking on our schedule? Never been to Fork, never been to, I haven't competed on Champlain that much, but I probably should go there, figure that place out. But no, so Toledo Bend, I've been to. I'm excited about that one. That's going to be a smash fest. I cannot wait to have everyone watch that event.
That's the kickoff, right? We're starting at Toledo. Is that right?
Yes. Yep. Starting at Toledo. And
there you
then
go. Fantasy Insider. Kyle Patrick says he's a lot for the fantasy team.
No, don't do that.
I'm a fantasy pundit, so I'm going to put that in the article. I'm going to put on Bassmaster that you basically said you cannot leave Kyle Patrick off your roster.
Oh my gosh, dude! I did that was my third best finish of the year. I will say that. That place was sick. Harris Chain of Lakes clearly need to figure something a little more out there than just going into canals with a wacky worm. Murray never been. Wheeler I've been. Smith never been. Got to practice for the Classic. So there's a lot of work. I mean, I don't need to go through all of it, but there's a lot of work to be done. And people don't realize how much it is involved with staying consistent and forget like the sponsorship side and partnership side, but like consistently staying like, relevant and on top of your game and fishing is so challenging. That's why it's so hard. Like you have to put so much time, whether it's on the water, on your computer, researching, Google Earth. I have like a system for waypoints that I, Google Earth stuff, and it transitions into my, hummingbirds. There's all kinds of stuff. What app do you use to organize your career?
Like, do you have your whole career on like Notion or something, or like, is it just a Google calendar?
Yeah.
Like what's
when you say like, career, what do you mean? Like,
I don't know.
Like, yeah, I mean, I would say like, as far as scheduling, I use Google Calendar because I can share it with people, and it connects into my Apple, calendar, so I always have it, right? And then I use a lot of Excel for like sponsorship obligations, money coming in, money going out. Like right now, I'm RJ and I are Powerhouse. We'll be at the Classic, so we're trying to, you know, manage who's going to work there. Excel's a really neat tool for like just managing, whether it's people, money, just all, it keeps it really organized. And then I have QuickBooks as well. Every time I swipe my credit card, it logs it so I can see the expenses for the year. You know, I pair a lot of different things together, but it is important to stay organized. And I'm not perfect. I make tons of mistakes when it comes to like, oh shoot, I should have probably organized it like this because now I'm lost or something like that. But that's another piece to the puzzle. Like you're your own business, you know, like you're your own business. You're your own negotiator. Like you have to stay on top of like all this. And I'm learning quickly, but it's hard. It's really hard.
Yeah. So that being said, since you're watching the budget, are you a PBJ rice beans kind of guy, or do you like to have a good meal for the tournament to help your performance? What's the strategy there?
After I won Ozarks, I went off a little bit, but every time I cut a check, I eat really well. And then, no, I mean, I don't skimp on meals because it is a really important part of, you know, staying like mentally, like your clarity mentally and physically, like on the water, it's really important. So I try to eat, you know, great meals, you know, not go overboard. I'm not getting like, you know, lobster dinners and stuff, but you know,
you're making sure you're getting a balance, like proteins, vegetables. It's not like just garbage in, garbage out. Like you're trying to.
Yeah, there's some garbage.
There's some.
Yeah,
I mean, like,
yeah.
There's also convenience, like
because dude, you get off the water at 8, right? Especially on the early ones where the sun isn't setting or the sun isn't going down.
Yeah, like St. Lawrence River, it was only dark for like 3 hours, right? So
yeah, man, like I would get off the water at 7:45 or whenever it was. I can't even remember because I'm so dialed in. All I do is I look at the, you know, sunrise, sunset on my weather apps. But you get off the water and you're famished, like beyond hungry, because, you know, I have 2 or 3 granola bars maybe on the water all day. So I'm starving. So you don't have a meal ready, you don't have it prepped or something, and you're driving past and it's like, oh, Chick-fil-A. You know, you just like pull in there. So like sometimes you have to eat like that. You know how it is.
I have a great app at Chick-fil-A for ordering ahead.
They do. Yeah, that's pretty crucial. I've used it a time or two. Florida's the worst though, because there's so much food. Yeah, I eat a lot. That's another problem. Like anyone that's traveled with me or knows who's gone out to dinner, like I eat probably an unhealthy amount. I might need to cut down on that actually. Like it's not affecting my performance, but I eat at least 2 or 3 meals in like a sitting at dinner, like guaranteed, like full pizzas and then like snacks after. Like it's pretty wild. I get chirped for it all the time too.
Most people say that you're pretty high energy, so you're like, you just always burning.
Yeah, that's probably what it is. It's a blessing and a curse. I shake a little bit when I land a big one. Thanks, Kevin. Kevin's the ultimate fan. I love it.
Yeah, I feel like I see Kevin hustling on Bass Boat Central quite a bit. Like he's very active. I'm assuming that's Kevin that I see.
Yes. It's either Kevin or someone in the office, but like Kevin is very dialed on, like, you know, he honestly, he's just a good business owner in this space because he cares so much about fishing in the industry. And when you care that much, it just translates to being a good business owner in bass fishing. I mean, there's a lot of businesses, you know, that are successful, but I think his is because of how much he cares about the industry and like just loves bass fishing, you know, like it's like me, like, or anyone that's on the elites, like, why are they there? Probably because they like it a whole lot. Because if you don't, you're not going to make it, you know?
Yeah.
And I mean, same with you with your podcast. I mean, it wouldn't be successful if you didn't like it, like, you know? So that is true.
Yeah. Patrick wants to know, is there a discount code for K&K Customs or?
I actually do have one. Yeah. Right now I'm redoing my website. But honestly, Patrick, if you just call Kevin, or someone in the office or Kevin's there, or whatever it is, just say that you saw the HellaBass live. And I said, Kevin needs to give you a discount. If he doesn't, you can message me on Instagram and say, Kevin screwed me over. And I'll talk to Kevin.
Nice.
Yeah.
Let's see what else.
What else is cooking down there?
Yeah, so I got a couple questions. So I guess is your brand gonna look pretty similar? I guess I'm assuming that like your wrap, your boat, your like
Yeah.
Is it gonna look substantially different next year from the opens, or is it gonna look pretty similar? Like
it's gonna look pretty different as far as sponsorship stuff goes, and I'm definitely going to do a lot more next year. I've hired, fortunately, I have Lee. Boom, discounts for all HellaBass watchers. Let's go. Fortunately, I have this social media guy who's so good, and I'm going to have him travel with me, and he's going to help a lot with like my brand. So we've got a new website cooking. We got Bassmaster Classic merch that's going to drop. Going to drop in a little bit, couple days or weeks. And then, all those like, the Budweiser ads, like the spoofs and like, all the like, funny stuff on Instagram. There'll be some shirts tied to that once it gets a little bigger. I'm not going to go overboard with apparel until I feel like I can sell it. And most of it won't be like KGP fishing stuff, right? Because frankly, I know that I'm not big enough yet to have like a Gerald
it's more
Swindle.
Like it's not what Jay Lee's doing, but it's like this lake sucks, or like
like
the Milliken vultures or spot vulture, like that kind of stuff. Just more like fishing themed.
Yeah,
like I have an idea. You can't steal this, but like my trademark is like eat a pike, save a jackhammer. I feel like that
good... No, that's a great shirt. I won't steal that idea. But we can
collab on it. We could do a collaborative shirt.
Oh yeah, dude, I will collab with you on that. But no, yeah, that's exactly it. Like, I mean, I'm gonna have some KGP Classic merch because I feel like it's just family members, friends, people that are coming out. It'll be nice to have that available for them. But yeah. No, brand won't change as far as like KGP fishing, but there'll be some sponsorship stuff that gets shifted around on the boat. And yeah, but other than that, it's going to stay true. No shoes, big bags. And, yeah, it is. His site is good.
I mean, I guess K&K Customs, like they have like powerhouse batteries, a lot of electronics, trolling motors, power poles, like that kind of stuff, right? That's the kind of the...
Yep. Yeah. No, their website is really good. They do a whole bunch of stuff, and there's a lot. He's working on some of his own products. He's got a lot.
Don't they have something for the new Quest trolling motor, like live scope adapter already, or something like that? Yeah.
Yep. He's got that cooking, so that's good. There's a whole lot of things in the works that he's got going on. He just, like I said, he just stays up to date. Like you gotta stay up to date in the industry to be successful. It's the same. It's truly the same with fishing too. Yes, Michael, I do have a YouTube channel. Forgive me, it's not that great right now. I have like I have like 4 or 5 videos from recent, but that's going to pick up a lot next year. So, obviously subscribe. It's helpful.
I just posted the link in the chat here. It's also in the show description. It's at KGP Fishing. Is your plan to do more? Do you have any plans with your social guy following you to do like the traditional tournament video? Because you've not really done that. You've done some stuff related to like your open fishing, but do you think you're going to do that, or are you going to kind of do your own take on it, or what's your vision for next year?
We're going to do both. We're going to do some traditional, like, Brandon Polinick type videos where it's like or Milliken does them too, like the basic tournament videos. But, I talk about this with Lee, who's helping me. obviously on the back end with like social media and stuff. Like we kind of want to provide content for like the tournament fisherman, but we also want to provide content for like, you know, your average guy that maybe doesn't care as much about tournaments and just wants to like watch entertaining fishing stuff, right? Like we have some pretty neat ideas that are, I won't even go into them, but they're pretty wild. And you'll see that in the next year or 6 months or whatever it is. And so that's going to be a neat addition.
It's kind of like, so you're probably best known for like some of your like vertical content, like your reels and your TikTok style, which you've done some creative stuff that's definitely, you know, with your buddy the Geico Lizard and some Budweiser type spoof commercial and things like that. And you seem like you're getting a lot more traction on Instagram and TikTok, but your shorts don't. For whatever reason, the shorts are not getting the traction.
I don't know what it is, man. But you know what? I frankly, that's not what. So our goal with the shorts was to just get some content out there quick.
Yeah.
And then, you know, we're going to really dive into YouTube. It's a great platform. I want to definitely do some educational videos because it's tough for me because it's this weird thing where Milliken does a good job with walking the line of like too much information. Sometimes he posts like some stuff where I think guys
here's all the waypoints from Eufaula and here's
where
I was graphing. It's like
and it's like whoa. Yeah, he definitely spilled the beans. I think some people were slightly unhappy with that. I mean, I didn't care, but I don't think I'm going to approach it that way as much as, you know, do some educational stuff like how can you get better with live scope? I know it's a hot topic. People don't like it. Yeah. I don't care. People, you're going to need to like it. Like I don't rely on it 100%, but if you don't, you're at a disadvantage. So I'm going to put some live scope content out. I'm going to put some, you know, lure specific techniques that I, you know, have utilized out. Like I just put one up about the greenfish tackle paired with the chunky D from Missile Baits. I put that video about like why that combo is so good out. You know, I'm going to do stuff about Powerhouse. We're going to, you know, dive into like the full system, why it's a really good system. There's so much stuff people don't even realize that makes Powerhouse so good. And I want to like share that with, you know, your average consumer that may not be as involved with, you know, their graphs or whatever it is. You know, I think that's valuable. So I'm going to try to walk the line of like, you know, I don't want to give away every single secret I've ever learned in my entire life, but I want to help people catch more fish and have a better time on the water.
Yeah. And Kyle does a good job. He's got some pretty good entertaining stuff. I don't know if you're more of a TikTok or more of an Instagram or more of a YouTube. He's done a good job. And there's some if just casual kind of fishing related kind of just like shorts, like they're pretty entertaining. Like it's not a lot of like, here's how to rig a Texas worm and like this is the best spinner bait because like, right. Like it's worth checking out. Check them out on your favorite platform. Cool. Well, here's the thing. I got a bunch of questions queued up about the Elite Series season and next year and what you're looking forward to, but I'm going to sneak in one quick little partner spot here and then we'll be back in 60 seconds to talk about next year.
Are you ready to reel in your next home purchase or refinance? Supreme Lending's Dream Team can help guide you through the entire mortgage process, from pre-qualification to closing. We have a wide variety of home loan programs in our tackle box, including down payment assistance and first-time homebuyer options. You can ask HellaBass. He trusted us to help finance his home. Contact the Dream Team today by searching Supreme Lending Dream Team or click the link below in the description or scan the QR code on your screen.
All right, back to our regularly scheduled program here. So when you win the Classic and you need to like buy that new lake place up in New York, Aaron's a bass fishing guy, you know, with people in the industry that likes to give back. So check out the Dream Team and
buying a home's not easy. You definitely need help there.
Didn't I actually see an email that the interest rates actually dropped today?
I don't know. I don't keep up with that.
I'm not sure it wasn't like a massive drop, but I guess it was the first time they actually like
kind of,
I don't know.
yeah.
So,
Hmm.
which would help the pros that are trying to sell their boat quite a bit.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
So, do you have a new boat, or are you running the same boat again this year?
No, so I am so happy. I actually need to get to Montcalm because I've got warranty on the old boat I have to deal with for my buyer, and then I sold my Mercury. So I sold my boat right before the St. Lawrence because I was like, man, this can't hold. I'm like, it can't hold up. And I sold my boat and got a new boat mid-season thinking, if I don't make it, I'll run it. This, like, for the next 3 months, I'll run this new Phoenix, and then I'll just run it into next year. But the market will be so saturated at the end of this year, there's no way they sell. So I sold it, got the new one. Now I'm headed to Yamaha. So Yamaha, I'm getting the Yamaha put on my boat. Mercury pulled off it. I sold it already. So I felt like I made a good decision on that note because I am not currently stressing about selling the boat, which is really relaxing on that front.
Yeah, that's look at you. You're so clever.
Yeah, I try.
All right, so I did promise we'd get to some of these questions. Wrong button. Let's see here. Brennan wants to know what lake are you looking forward to most, and what do you think lake fits your style next year?
Man, that's a good question. So believe it or not, my style of fishing is like a John Cox. Like that's how I grew up fishing in New York. That's how I, that is like my bread and butter. Like that's what I love more than anything. However, I have become pretty proficient with my live scope. So it's a hard question because I think Toledo Bend sets up really well for me. I really do. I like the way it fishes, big largemouth. I'm able to fish shallow and go out in live scope. Depending on how Florida sets up, I struggled with the Harris chain, but I feel like if I could get them shallow better than I did, that could be a decent event for me. To be honest, man, I don't really have a favorite way to fish at this point in my career because I've just become accustomed to figuring out how to catch the fish in the best way and becoming as good at that specific technique in that specific tournament and moment as I possibly can, that I don't really go into a lake and say, I'm doing this or I'm doing that. I keep it kind of open-minded.
Yeah. Didn't you at one point in the year catch like a crazy amount of fish on the magic worm, or like made up like?
Yeah. That bait, look, I'm telling you right now, the missile bait, yeah, there it is. So this worm.
So what color? So give us like top two color. Like
the top two colors, hands down, it's the blue. What's it called? Oh God, yep, you had it.
Green Pumpkin Money?
No. Well, I mean, they're all so good. Yep. Bruiser Flash. That's what it is. Bruiser. Dude, it's so weird. People are like, I remember JT pulled me over at Oklahoma in practice. He goes, "You got that worm on your deck again?" And I was like, "Dude, just wait, man. Like, the thing's a bad dude." And I finished 11th on it and didn't catch one other fish on any other bait. I'll give you the lowdown on this. So, and I've already spilled the beans, so I'm not worried about. So it's funny. I use this on a 745 Douglas rod. So like kind of a mid, like it's not too stiff. It's got like it's got a little bit of, flex or forgiveness when I set the hook, right? It's got like a great medium action, stouter rod though, like a 745, it's a 7.4. It's like you could flip jigs with it, throw a frog. And I power shot it. So a 20-pound test, straight fluoro, 1/2 ounce weight, a cover shot hook, and it's 12 inches above the line, and it's that worm Texas rigged on the Cover Shot HD hook. That bait, I caught 5 fish on it at Toledo, and then after Toledo, I went, where did we go? Bugs Island. Every fish I caught was on it. Eufaula, Oklahoma. Every fish I caught was on it. Wheeler Lake. I had 3 or 4 tournaments in a row where I caught no fish on any other bait but one. I went through like 20. I went through
always
like
power shotting, or did you ever drop
every time.
shot? Like,
nope. Nope. So that spoke volumes. Like I remember texting Alex at Missile Baits and John, and I was like, I remember texting John once, and I was like, dude, I don't think I need another bait ever. Like it seems like I just can't miss with this bait right now. And so it's the deal. I mean, I could go on and on about it. I'm going to tell you right now that I have a whole pile of those for next year, just going to get ready to get ripped apart by big largemouth. And it's the deal, man. Like they truly are good. And
I will say the green pumpkin money, I fished it a decent amount on a wacky drop shot, but the little arsenal band in the center, so I could catch a bunch of fish on it without burning through a worm. Sorry, John, I don't like to burn through worms. But I actually average bite was really good on that. Like a lot of 3 to 5 pounders.
Yep.
And I'm not a drop shot guy, but I had some pretty good success on up where I am, the green pumpkin money.
Yeah, like I have every color in my truck. Every single color. I have the small ones, I have the big ones.
Do you because the batteries take up so much room, do then you use like the packs of magic worms as like pillows? Or
no, I actually have a deck system. So I put like all my baits underneath, but I do have a lot of batteries. But yeah, you guys should seriously look into that. I'm gonna make a video about it. You know, there's a lot of factors that made that bait so good this year, and it'll be the same deal next year. The bait just flat out catches them. And what's nice is instead of like throwing a drop shot on spinning gear, when you're setting the hook, you're jacking them. Like you can set it like you got a jig bite, you know, like not once did I like play a fish on that bait. And I caught a 6.4. I think my two biggest bass on that was like a 6.4 and like a 5.8.
Yeah, so I think the magic worm kind of answers this question, like you said. Yeah, that the jig that you finished up the season where you won at Ozarks, right?
Yeah, that greenfish tackle jig. So the 2 baits, just to recap: Missile Baits magic worm, pretty much any color. I tend to lean on the PB&J and why do I blank on it every darn time? The color, the
Bruiser Flash.
Bruiser Flash. Yep, Bruiser Flash. And then, the greenfish tackle, 3/4 ounce, little rubber jig. Not only did Tyler Williams win an Open on it, but the next event I won an Open on that, paired with the magic worm a little bit. And the key was that the Chunky D, that trailer fits it so well with the hook, and the video's up on YouTube. I won't go on and on about it.
I've dabbled with the Chunky D. It's a good jig chunk for sure. I like it.
It really is.
So you're not a big purple worm. You're not a big Missile Morning John's Juice kind of guy. You're not a big
I throw it
pink. But I mean, like that's not like a lot of people like that's like the first one they pick up every single time.
Yeah. So I mean, to be honest with you, I have like 4 of those setups on my deck. Like usually I've got a Bruiser Flash, I've got some sort of green pumpkin, and the pink is a really good bait, but I tend to throw the pink a lot in clear water. I know that seems odd to people, but it's something about the way the bass see it. They obviously don't see color like we do, and I think I was watching a video on it.
I think it turns more gray.
Yeah, exactly. So that pink is like, it must mimic the way those shad look, or like, whatever they're feeding on really well.
What people want to know what size cover shot for their magic worms when they're power shotting.
Yeah, it's the so you're gonna think I'm crazy, but trust me when I tell you the hook to land ratio is better on it. It's the 1/0 cover shot HD though. It's got to be the 1/0 regular is too thin for a power shot technique, right? Like, yeah, there you go. It's too thin for a power shot technique. That's my power shot setup is the 1/0. You can go up to a 2/0. The 2/0 works, but it's just not, quite as dangerous. And the I mean, this isn't a secret. Like everyone throws a drop shot, like they really do. It's not anything that's too out of the ordinary. But there's something about that magic worm. All lithium. That's a good question.
Wants to know, are you a 312 volt or 136 or dual 36s or like? And I guess start with your trolling motor batteries. Kind of let us know what do you think the ideal battery setup is.
All right. One thing that everyone knows about batteries is that Caroline, one thing that everyone knows about batteries is that redundancy is a huge deal. Like having the peace of mind. I don't care if you have the best batteries in the world made from, God himself. Like you always want to have a backup. And I think that personally, I think the Powerhouse does it the best. So I start with 236 40s. You can also go to 236 60s if you feel like you're going to be, it's almost like you need like a walleye boat. If you're going to like troll, you'd have 236 60s in parallel. And so that's on the trolling motor side, 236 60s. And then I've got my, 35. We have a designated charger, but I'll get into that later. 236 40s in parallel. Then I have a 16 volt 100. I used to run the 80. I switched to the 100. The 80's just as powerful, especially with our running gun system. So 236 60s, a 16 80 or 100, and then I run the 12 volt 105 amp hour cranking battery. And the cranking battery has an emergency start in case something were to happen, right? It's all about redundancy. But the key to this setup is the way it's rigged, right? Like we have, in my opinion, Powerhouse has perfected rigging a battery system in the back of a bass boat. First of all, we perfected the lithium battery graph game with our 16 volt battery, but the second piece of the puzzle is the rigging and the charging. Those two, it's so crucial to have the proper rigging and charging, as you know. I mean, it's what system do you run in your boat?
It sounds just like yours.
Okay, so essentially,
I started with a 16, and then I slowly then I'm pretty much evolved to what you have.
Mm-hmm. So like, we have run and gun chargers, which essentially it's similar to a power pole charge in that it's distributing charge from like when you're running down the lake. My Yamaha will put 35 plus amps into my 12 volt cranking, right? And then it'll basically overflow. I don't know all the like technical stuff behind it, but the running gun sense the overflow and it transitions charge from the 12 volt into my 16 and my 36 volt system. And the same goes for when I plug my boat in at night. I plug my boat in at night. It goes into my 35 amp charger, single bank, designed for the running gun, comes back and it charges that 12 volt. And then the running guns kick on depending on the level of charge that's needed in each battery. So it's all just designed to work with lithiums. And,
on one cord you plug in.
On one cord you plug in.
So you've got, just so people understand, you have 4 batteries with 3 different voltages, one cord.
Right. That is a crucial aspect of all this. And we've come out with some other chargers that we've developed and tested. And if you want to go the route of having, like we have the 12 volt, 24 volt, 36 volt, charger that have leads for each battery. But frankly, that run and gun system is just so hard to beat. And, we have breakers so you can charge one over the other if you need to. We've got a 3-way Pergo switch that if my 16 volt had a problem, I could switch over. And now my graphs are running off the 12 volt system with the flip of a switch. If anything happened, we have trays with cushion in them to eliminate vibration. Like, we really have thought of, and I know you may not take, you may think I'm just marketing it. I called these guys a year and a half ago, and I saw this in them. Like, they care so much about keeping anglers on the water and about providing like the best experience out there. Because as you know, with lithiums, for everyone that's watching, if you haven't had lithiums, don't know, you probably heard, like, if your lithiums go dead, if you're running 312s for your trolling motor battery, for your old truck, say, and one battery, the BMS has a problem, boom, your system's done.
Or your charger didn't charge it right.
Yep. Whatever it may be. You're done.
In my old boat, I had an issue with my chargers and some different lithiums, and I lost one. Then I was like, "You're just done. Your Ultrex just stopped spinning. You're toast."
No, it doesn't even stop spinning. Your foot goes stiff.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know what
like
I'm saying?
The blue light just turns off.
Dude,
And you're like,
oh my god, it's so. I've had it happen 3 times prior to Powerhouse, and you'll be on the water, and all of a sudden, like you like almost freak out a little bit, and you like step on your trolling motor, and you're like, no, and then you have to like move the head of the trolling motor so that when you lift it up, like it doesn't like hit your live scope or something, and then you literally are just done. So, I mean, take my word for it. I was a service trailer, so if anyone had any problems, I would be the one to take care of it, right? So they'd call me up, and there was not one time a guy forgot to charge, so I gave him a courtesy battery.
Jamie.
I was like, I'll give you the
It was Jamie Bruce.
Jamie Bruce. He forgot to charge, and I was like, you're a moron. Here's a battery.
Does he? When I watched his video, he didn't have the running gun set up, did he?
No, and he didn't even have the running gun set up. Or no, maybe he did. Did he?
I don't think he had the one for the one battery. I think that's why it didn't.
Yep.
Canadians. What are you gonna do? I mean,
I know. Brucey, poor Brucey. I do wish Jamie made it, but he had a crazy season. He's gonna do, I think, Division 3 next year and a couple other jackpotters. I could see him winning AOI, honestly. Not that's funny. Oh gosh, yeah. No, I mean, summarize it all up, like, it's a crazy industry, man. Yeah, Nick, it is legit. Let's go, dude. Yeah, so we'll be at the Classic for anyone that's coming. Make sure you stop by. It's gonna be, I mean, hopefully I won't be there the final day either, but I will be at the Classic, not at the booth, but at the Classic. I don't know. Yes, Hella did announce his Division 3 entry.
I can't register until I think November 14th is when Bass Nation Life members that are fishing a single entry can get in. So at this point, I'm planning on it. But it won't.
What do you think? What do you think? Do you think that you'll have a good chance? I don't know. I really don't know.
Like to get in? I think if
like
I'm ready at 8 a.m. or not, whenever with like to go, I think I should get in.
Okay.
But like, because like there's like a 2-day window before it goes open to all whatever, like single division entries. And
yeah, I thought
so,
about
I think if I'm punctual, I think, because I don't think there's going to be, I guess, because so it'll be all people that are signing up for all divisions. That's already happened.
No, only early entry.
Well, just because you fished last year, you got some early entry, right? So
yeah, well, you get,
like,
if you top 20 in points, you have to top
20 in points, and then it's going to go to people
divisions.
Fishing all 9, and then it'll go to single division.
Do they prioritize the elites?
I don't think any of the divisions will completely fill up until they do the single divisions. So
You're probably right about that. And then also remember, there is a waiting list, and like stuff does happen to where
right.
people will drop out. So
yeah. So like I don't know where, like I feel like Division 3 is like tournament 6, 7, and 8, or 5, 6, and 7 of the whole season. So
yeah, exactly. So people will know
I think
after.
if I'm punctual and I don't get in, I'll be early enough on the waiting list that people will bomb one of the first 4 tournaments and be like, I'm not driving up north. That's stupid. So
yeah.
it's not the last. I want to say it's 6, 7, and 8. I think there's one like what is it, Santee Cooper or Hartwell late in the year. One of the, like there's Hartwell. There's like one last one that goes back down south after the.
Yep. 100%. Yeah, no, it's going to be a cool division.
I mean, old motors have alternators. They just don't have high output alternators, right?
That's a really good question. If you want to, really what you need to do, Top Toad, I love that name. That's epic. You would have to ask or figure out with your dealer, or maybe send your, I mean, you could send it to me. I'll help you out. Just send me your engine. Like if you got an Instagram, or you can, I don't know, put it in here, what engine you have. We can determine what your, we can determine how much output your engine is giving, because I don't think it works unless it has to have a certain amount of amperage coming in.
And I think it also depends on which one it is, right? Because like the amps required to like kick on the 36 volt is different than it is for like the 16 volt.
Correct. Yeah.
Nerdy things you learn. But it would work in for like plugging in at night if you have the right charger, and you can have everything like still. Yeah. Anyways.
Right. Yeah.
Here's a rod question. Little Rich wants to know favorite Douglas rod and why.
Dude, so I'll put it to you like this. They're all so good, and I mean that, like, but for certain techniques, they're very technique specific. Like if you look on our website or through a dealer's website or something, was that a Kit Kat?
$100,000.
Oh, heck yeah. You'll see that we have so many different models, like, because we have rods specifically for throwing a glide bait, specifically for throwing a swim bait, big swim bait, little swim bait, spy bait. Like we have a whole, like our focus is, dialing in that specific technique. And you can cross use them, but long story short, my favorite rod is a 745. It's the one I throw a jig on, whether it's deep or shallow. It's the one I throw a frog on. It's the one I throw a chatterbait on. I switch between a 745 to a 744. It's sort of your all-purpose. It's similar to like a lot of guys like a 7.6, but I think the 7.4 it's a little shorter. I feel like I can get a little more accurate and up close and personal with, docks, and, feeling like I can get into tight spaces with a 7.4 better. I'm a little more accurate with it. I even punched up a 2-pounder at Harris on day 2 with a 745. Like it's just an all-purpose rod. And I use the X Matrix lineup. It's the top of the line from them. It's, their best line, but honestly, I really like the LRS. And if you go with an LRS, it'll be a little bit stiffer, a tiny little bit. Same rod, 745 to 745, but I find it's a little bit stouter to where, like the X Matrix is going to be more sensitive, but the LRS is going to be stouter. So like I'll throw a frog with the LRS, which is their 200. I think it retails at $200 or something. And then the X Matrix obviously goes up from there. We're actually coming out with a new line. That's, you'll see it here shortly. So be on the lookout for that. I'll have that in my on my socials and stuff for you guys. They're incredibly. Fred Kintawi is the rod designer. He's like a legend when it comes to like dialing in. Like he's out. he's probably fishing right now for like salmon or something. Like he's awesome when it comes to like dialing in techniques with rods and stuff like that. He's great.
Yeah,
but
sounds similar. Like I love the Dobbin 745. They sound like very similar rods.
Yep. It's a great. Yeah, I mean,
they're not super popular in this region, but yeah.
Right. No, yeah. But that 745 is like, or the 7.4 in any line, I feel like is a really good all around rod.
Nice. Let's see here. I don't know. Do you feel like there's somebody else in the EQs that has a similar path to the elites as you?
Good question.
Besides that, Tyler doesn't wear shoes, so like that's similar.
Yeah. I think so. Like, you know, similar in the fact of, so I didn't go to college for fishing. So, you know, a couple guys fished in college. What I think is so unique about fishing is that everyone has a different story. Everyone has a different path, but we all have a passion for fishing. And I think that, frankly, it would be hard. That question, I don't think anyone really could compare. I mean, maybe once in a while, oh, we went to the same college, you know, we fished together, then we both made it type deal, right? Like, you know, but most of the time it's never at the same time. Like John Garrett and Cody, they fished in college. I think they fished in college together. I forget, but you know, I mean, Ben Milliken, like YouTube, like fishing star, you know.
Never trust anybody that's on YouTube first.
Yeah. I played college soccer for 4 years. Like, you know,
where at?
Hobart in Geneva, New York, upstate New York. They're in the NCAA, or they're competing for an NCAA bid right now. You know, and you have like Wesley Gore, like Kenta obviously doesn't really count. But I would say similar, I guess Tyler Williams, because we're both from the North. We kind of grew up in a smaller club type situation. That's where we learned to fish, was like, you know, smaller clubs in the North. I don't know. Not really.
Well, how many fishermen get booted from the elites per year? It can be, it's a tricky question. I think it can be up to 9 or 10, but it's a
lot of variables. A lot of variables
in that equation, and there's not and they don't publish the list until, because like Mike,
no, they don't ever publish
that he wasn't coming back, so that saves somebody from a list that we haven't seen. So there was a guy that was about to get cut that's now not going to get cut, so it's a little murky. Or if the nation, like if Tim Dubé decides not to accept his nation bid, then that would be a spot.
Is he gonna accept that?
Undetermined. He might be next week's guest. Might be Friday night next week. We might be talking to Tim Dubé. So,
because that's one of those situations where it's just like you are thrown into a gauntlet of, and I'm sure he's very capable. But when I say gauntlet, not of fishing, of just you're literally your life changes, especially in his case, being that he came in second, right?
Yeah, because he didn't even really realize it until after he weighed in. They're like, oh, by the way, since
you're in the elites.
You gotta get an elite bid. You probably weren't thinking about that, but since why am I blanking on Will Davis's junior, right? He wins. He backed first time ever. A lot of people are bitter that the classic spot's not going down the nation list and it's going down the elite list, but they do that in the open. So, yeah, so he's got a lot to. I know I heard him on Bassmaster Radio and he was undecided. So maybe we'll get a inside scoop next week. But yeah, and like his deposits are due, like whatever he won or he finished second in that tournament 10 days ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. And I'm not sure when the deposits are due, but like when are your deposits due? Clay wanted to know, like, are they already due? Have you already had like
6 days soon? From now? I threw some down already, just because it's like, what am I not going to pay for it throughout the year? I might as well just pony up, you know, a good chunk now. Like
low key, Milliken showed like a screenshot. Looks like he just put all 45,000 down right away.
honestly, I don't blame them, because what you're gonna have to deal with it. Well, yeah. Are you just gonna? I mean, I can't do that, but like, if I could, I would, because what you're just gonna have to keep logging in, painfully putting 5.
I remember Panger talking about these, like, I was out fishing on Lake X, and I got a notification on my phone that the deposit was due for a tournament 2 tournaments from now, so I had to stop practicing and enter my credit card to get check card or whatever.
Dude,
so
yeah. I did pay for the Opens though. That deposit hurts more because you have to pay either for the 800 times 9 tournaments, and then that hurts.
Yeah. As far as I know, Clay, there's no Legends list or how many points. They don't publish that. It's tricky because like there are years where, like, let's say Rick Clunn or David Fritz had a bad year, but like the COVID year, they didn't cut anybody, so they didn't have to use any points that year. Or maybe some other people dropped out because of financial reasons. Well, then they didn't have to spend their points that year, so nobody really knows. Just industry news here. Apparently 2 people didn't sign their contracts for BPT, and based on being in the Castledine live chat, I believe it was Mitch Crane and Josh Butler that didn't re-sign.
Well, I think we'll see some.
And it's interesting. Like, so I'm probably gonna do a video here. I actually tried to recreate the rankings from the last 5 years and to project, because like there's a list that the BBT anglers have seen, but it's not public. So stay tuned. I'm gonna do my best attempt to recreate that so people can figure out who's like has like the best chance to make it, not make it. But I could see that because Josh and Mitch were
Advanced Bass Stats did.
Yeah, his is pretty accurate. It lines up. I'll go a little more in depth. So it makes me feel comfortable that our list looks very similar. So they were both guys that qualified last year at the Invitational, so they only have 1 year. Neither one of them had a terrible year, but they're definitely below 35, so it's going to be hard. It would have been very difficult for them to move up enough without basically top 10ing for AOI and requalifying. So
yeah,
I guess that's just a little insight on maybe and I think they're just pissed because, like,
I mean, look, I don't blame the guys, and I don't go public with this stuff, but man, it just seems like a bad deal. Like, I talked to one of my buddies, and he was like, at Sturgeon Creek in Virginia. His name's Taylor, and he was talking about how, I mean, I'm friends with Martin Villa, but Martin Villa, like, he just qualified for the BPT, and like it would be like me, right? They're like, congrats, you made the Elite Series. Now you have to top 10 AOY to stay there. And it's like, dude, that is outrageous. Like, don't get me wrong, it's possible, but like, you gotta.
It's probably more like 15 or 20, because probably half the guys on the top 35 will be in the top 10. So I mean, but yeah, to only guarantee it, it's gonna be a top 10. It'll probably trickle to 15 or 20, but like, yeah, like it's unreal.
To me, it's rude, honestly.
No, the whole thing is reeks, and yeah, that's not what this podcast is about, but we touched on it. But yeah, it's a raw deal. But
yeah,
back to your point of, like, you were talking about, hey, I got sponsors, contracts, research, and you all got to catch them, right? Because you also only get 2 years guaranteed.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing. Like, right now, I'm worried about getting everything set up for next year, right? So
that you can, like, focus when you're on the water.
Like, I'm shooting for, what is it, November 1st? December 1st, I want to be locked, loaded. I got to get with VFX. I gotta get all my boat and truck wrapped. I gotta go to Montcalm Marine and get, my boat dialed in, not redialed in, because it's somewhat staying the same. But I got to put my Apex units on there. I got to put my Quest on there. I got to, do some battery maintenance. Like, my Phoenix, like, I have to, like, I just like to, like, take the connections off, do some, like, after a full season or even a half season, like, it's just good to, like, make sure everything's tightened and everything. But I mean, I have, like, a whole pile of stuff to do. I also, a deer hit me, so I have to go to bring my truck in to, like, all these things stack up. And it seems like there's a lot of time, but I got to go pre-practice for the Classic in December before it goes off limits January 1st. So I have that, Christmas, January comes in, and I'm gone for, I mean, January, I'm pretty much gone till April.
You could tell Panger that if he wants an in-studio guest, let him know.
Yeah.
Pop in.
Yeah. No, that would be.
Say, Panger, I'll come in. I'll stop by the house.
Wait, how far is he?
He's not far, I don't think. I mean, Oklahoma's not that big.
Yeah, true. I actually should ask him about that. I don't know him all that well, but he seems like a really good dude. I talked to him here and there. I think I'm probably too wiry for him.
Good yin and yang. You kind of bring back some of that energy that Jeffrey's had. It might work. There might be a chemistry there.
Who knows? Oh gosh, yeah. No, it's a wild game. People don't people truly don't realize, and I think it's good to have some insight into, like, if you're gonna do this, you need to be super prepared to sacrifice like a substantial amount of your life. Honestly.
Yeah, I guess. So back to kind of like the payoff. Like, so what do you think are some common mistakes people do, or maybe some mistakes you've made? Like, what should people avoid, or misconceptions, or things people you see doing the wrong way, or you think is maybe not the best way that you've seen in the last couple of years?
I think you have to be very careful about the way that. So, I talked to quite a few people during practice, just trying to gauge, what's going on, right? I think that's perfectly fine. I think there's ways that guys get info that is unethical, not against the rules, unethical. And there's a difference. That will change. I think Bassmaster will alleviate some of that. But I think you got to be very careful, because that can burn you. I've seen it with other people. It's a hot topic, and you got to stay competitive. And there's a lot of ways to do that. I think some people do it the wrong way. Some people do it the right way. I don't judge either way, but definitely make sure that you're doing that the right way. And then, make sure your financial situation's in straight. I got pretty lucky my first full year doing it, where I cashed like, I think 22 or 23 grand in checks, somewhere around there, to where I was able to do it. But frankly, if I didn't do that, I would have been 10 grand in credit card debt. That's something that a lot of guys go through that is sad, really. And you need to make sure, and I'll even raise it a little bit. You need to make sure you have 60 grand in disposable money, like in your bank account, ready to go, or at least know that you will be able to spend that, because it's just outrageous what it costs. Big RJ's in the house. Yeah, that's one lesson for sure. RJ, you just missed a big discussion on Powerhouse Lithium, dude. Just, come on. Should have lied down earlier.
It's weird. I actually just snapped him, and then he magically appeared. Like,
oh, it's funny.
But yeah, anything else as far as, like, do you think people practice too much, not practice enough, come in unprepared, like underestimate the costs? Like, what other?
Yeah, underestimating the costs, like I said, and then practice is tricky. I think you need to have a system of breaking down lakes that works for you. I don't think there's one right way to do it. But I think that you need to have experience either breaking down lakes. Like, you need to be really good at breaking down lakes in general, or you need to have a really, really good way of organizing everything that's going on, waypoints, time of year, and put your time in on these lakes prior to off limits, or else you're going to get spanked. I mean, between locals, guys that put in the time more than you do, and just guys that are better at fishing, you have to combat all of those three factors. And, like, it's hard. It's really, really hard.
I mean, I think a lot of people get trapped into that. Like, they hear guys like Ish Monroe and Brian Thrift say, I I don't like to do a lot of research. I like to just like show up and see what the lake tells me. Well, they've also been fishing tournaments for 20 years, so they're like their
Yeah.
gut instinct is just a little better than yours when you've
Yeah,
like
exactly.
you come from New York, you fish for like 30 days in the summer, you've only been doing it for 2.5 years. Like your instincts on southern reservoirs aren't going to quite be the same. So you might need a different program than them.
Yeah. Yep. And that's why I think, frankly, to give JT some kudos, that's why I think he's so good, is he puts in an incredible amount of work, you know, figuring out these lakes, dialing in the techniques, you know, graphing, and same with everyone. But I'm just highlighting him because he won AOY. Like that's hard to do.
Yeah. How many of the 9 opens did you pre-practice this year?
None. But
So
I had
just
5.
the
But I
5
had
days.
5 days. But I had 5 days.
Yeah.
The 5 days is crucial because the first 2 days I can kind of spend some time gauging where I want to focus, and then I can focus on it for 3 days. Whereas in the elites, you get 3 days, so it's not as easy. Like it's actually very hard on these giant places. Like I was saying with Florida, like 2 days is, depending on the time of year, 2 days can be 14 hours of fishing or 28 hours of fishing. So imagine 28 hours on a body of water you lose now when you're practicing for the elite.
So basically, like the first 2 days where you're pre-practice, that's where you like figured out what the water looked like. You kind of looked like you could go take a peek at the upper end. You could look by the dam. You could check out some of the major creeks. You could get a feel for what's going on. You learned where the gas stations are and the boat ramps and like you know, and then the 3 days you're really like, okay, now that 2 days, now I need to like put a more focused 3-day practice plan in.
Yep, that's exactly it. And I section off the lake and I have a tier system. You know, I have tier A spots, B, C, and D. And that's how I break down a lake. I don't know how that's going to work this time around on the elites. So I'll have to maybe change the way I'm breaking down the lake. I'm not sure. I guess that's a trial and error thing, but it seemed to work for the opens.
So how do you plan to pre-practice most of the elites though?
Yes.
Or some of them, or except all the ones you haven't been to, basically?
Yeah, and even the ones I've been to, I need to spend some time there. You know.
Okay. So you're gonna like put in a long weekend at every one of them ahead of time to kind of just like get a vibe. And when you pre-practice, do you fish? Do you just graph? Do you just drive around? What's your strategy?
Frankly, pre-practice, I've never done a whole lot of pre-practice. Like I said, like I haven't gone like 60 days before an event because I haven't felt like I needed to with 5 days, but I will do pretty much strictly graphing and looking a little bit like, you know, what, you know, I go into a clear creek. Okay. Is there a little grass stretch here? Is there, you know, like I visually is just as important to me as like seeing stuff with your eyes is just as important to seeing stuff on your graph. But I'll barely cast a rod. And if I do, it'll be because I just have to catch a fish. Like I'm getting annoyed, but no, like,
or you need to make a TikTok or something and you got to like get some
something.
content.
Yeah. Something. Exactly. But yeah, no, nice. graphing pretty much solely. Yeah.
How many of the 9 opens from this year had you been to previously?
St. Lawrence, which is ironic because it was my worst finish. And then Harris Chain, which is my second worst finish.
There you go.
You know what I mean? Like it's weird.
Your pre-practice strategy as you like talk.
Yeah. I'm like, maybe I just show up. No, but there is a disadvantage to knowing a body of water. And that's a fact. And that's, I mean, everyone talks about it, local curse. Like
it can be, right? It goes both ways.
It goes both ways.
How you manage it.
Yep, exactly. It's all about management. Like, I don't think I could spend, 10 days on a lake and then 10 or 15 days, like before, like back when the opens had no off limits, people would spend like 10, 15 days straight. And I think that just throws me off more than anything because fish change daily, hourly, even by the minute. So like, how can you go and fish for that long and expect to have something dialed for sure?
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting. Very cool.
It is.
Oh. Let's see. Let me check the old questions here one more time. Talked about that. Talked about that. Clay said he'll be shocked if Ish made it through the EQs. He also said Milliken wouldn't get a top 10 and wouldn't make it, so this means Ish is pretty much a guaranteed lock for 2025 Elite Series, because every time Clay says something won't happen, that angler basically does the opposite. So congrats, Ish, on your 2025 Elite Series qualification.
Ish, you got it. He's a good dude. I talk to him here and there in some lines. He's a good dude.
This is a good question by David. Did you ever have a grade C or D spot save your tournament or get better as it went on because the obvious stuff got obliterated?
Dude, that's how I won Ozarks. I had a C and D stretch right by the ramp, and I knew that. So what I consider, just to give you some insight, what I consider a C and D spot, is basically an area where there's activity. I could go in there, get lucky and catch a good one, but for the most part I could only see catching 1 or 2, maybe 3 fish in the area, and I have to fish it hard, right? Mm-hmm. And I had an A spot, or thought would be an A spot, and day 1 I had that 20-pound bag there. Day 2 I had some issues dealt with, ran up, they didn't have a fish till 12, ran back to, I bounced to some B spots all the way back to the ramp, and I had like 3 fish for like 6 pounds. And then I got to my C spot, and it was happening. And I caught 15 change in like 40 minutes. And then the next day I went there, and that's where I caught 2 4s, 2 4 pluses, and like a 2. So yes, it has gotten better. And that's the thing, is like, that's what's so hard about pre-practice sometimes, is like, you can write off an area that you think's a D, or even not even a D spot. And, if you had just checked it 2 days later, you would have been like, oh my God, it's the best spot on the whole lake, especially in those transition periods. Like Eufaula, when we had fish on the bank, but a lot of them were pulling up to the deeper points and, ledges. Like, I wrote that off, and it burned me. And that's fishing. But at the same time, if you learn how to manage it properly, you can be really, really good.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes total sense. And I think, yeah, I think I think in the elites, I think to some degree, obviously those guys are good at finding fish, but obviously just 100 boats versus 225, right?
So
that should, yeah.
So
just want to highlight that I did throw up the Omnia code, brand new one for November. I think pretty much the magic worms, the cover shot, the jigs, all that stuff that Kyle talked about, you can stock up using the code down below and save yourself a little cash. So feel free if any of that stuff intrigued you, or whatever you want. It's November. Get yourself some Christmas presents early.
Yeah, I think it's necessary that you guys check that stuff out. At least tinker with it. Get a pack or 2.
I'll definitely give the. I fished the magic worm, and I've definitely caught some good stuff. Unfortunately, the code does not work on electronics, but you can go look up guys like K&K Customs or chattyboys.com. Those guys usually will be able to help you out if you tell them HellaBass or Kyle sent you. But there is a code for Powerhouse, HP10, if you want to go direct to Powerhouse and save some money too. So, but what you can do is you can buy your regular tackle using my code, stack up the premium points at Omnia, and you can apply the premium points to electronics. Little hack there. So
that is a hack. How do the premium points work?
Basically, if it's Omnia Premium is like $29 a year. And you get 10% back on all your purchases in points. So your typical tackle junkie has no issue spending $300 in gear in a year. So that, and then the other big benefit is you get free free shipping on any orders. So if you want to like, man, I just need 1 bag of worms for this weekend, you can order it and not have to pay $50 ship. Like, right. So it keeps you from like, you get like 2 bags of worms and you're like, well, I'm just going to make a $50 cart so I get free shipping. But you can just order 2 bags of worms and just get them. So like those are the two, those are the 2 big wins. And then they have some exclusive sales and exclusive deals. Like I think this year they had 30 or 35% off a Tatula SV for premium members.
Yeah.
So
that's
things like that.
Yeah, that's stout. Sweet.
All right. Well, last call for questions. We're right at 2 hours. We covered a lot of ground. It was a fun talk tonight.
That was. Thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, anytime. We'll have to do it. Well, after you get a blue trophy or win the classic, we can get you back on. Yeah, they do write letters too sometimes. They do a letter in there. Sometimes you get free beef jerky in your box.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, like they do promotions. Like for a while, they were putting in like Jack Links, and then they had some other smaller local brands. Like they'll do cross promos. So like, if you have an order of $50, they'll throw in some beef jerky or things like that. So
heck yeah, cool.
True.
It's true.
It's a great boat snack.
That is a great.
Yeah, I was thinking I went to the Classic last year for the first time in Knoxville and just kind of took it in. Actually hung out with RJ a little bit, made him drive me around.
You coming this year?
Rent a car. I was definitely planning on that, but now because I actually have a real job, that if I want to fish the EQs and the lacrosse Bass Nation qualifier, I don't know. Maybe I can somehow get work to get me close like last time, but if I do, it'll be like an in and out. Like I can't like come down like Wednesday night and like hang out for like. So it'll be more of an in and out type thing. I definitely want to go, but it won't be like. I was telling RJ needs to have like a powerhouse house where we just all hang out and like.
I think we might. No, seriously, I actually think we might.
So I can just come and sleep on the couch for like one night, but yeah, but the Classic's legit. So I want to go if I can make it. He says it's happening. So yeah, if you guys came in late, I think there was a lot of good nuggets we covered early. Kyle gave some good tips on sponsorship and finances for fishing tournaments. If you ever like, I think it's good to understand it. Even if you don't think you're going to do it, I think if you follow the sport, I think it's good to understand that. And it's a good aspect of the sport. So go back and listen to the replay, whether you're on YouTube or Facebook or search HellaBass on your favorite podcast app. But it's been a pleasure. Looks like we've kind of hit the saturation point for the chat. Everybody's got their questions answered. It was fun.
Yeah, man. I super appreciate it. I like talking about this stuff. And if anyone has any questions further, I am pretty good at responding to, DMs and all that kind of stuff. I'm happy to shoot you over like a mock of what a year on the Opens would be, and all that good stuff. So yeah, hit me up, and thanks again. It was epic. Had a bunch of fun.
Thanks everybody that joined in the chat. As always, here to help you guys catch more big bass and suck less.